If I say Bloons Tower Defense blank, what do you fill in that blank with? 5 or 6? Those are the games that most people are familiar with, but what about 4, 3, 2, or 1? Did any of you guys think of Who Wants to Be a Bloonionaire or Bloons Player Pack 5 Christmas Edition? There's a saying among game designers, your first 10 games will suck, so get them out of the way fast. Now this is a hard pill to swallow for new developers. Are you saying that the game I'm working on right now is gonna suck? What about the other 3 I just made? Well, they probably do. But that isn't the point. The first game you ever make might be the first time you've ever written out a story or coded movement controls or drawn a character. The important thing about the first games you make isn't that they're going to be making you famous or that they'll even be good, but they're going to make you a better game designer. The first Bloons game didn't make anyone famous, but it blazed the trail for much better games to be made. So the question becomes, how do I make my first game? Well, it boils down to 4 jobs: design, develop, test, and iterate. How you divvy these up is up to you. You could do them all yourself, or you could give some to friends, but it's arguably the most important thing that happens in production. Scratch that, it is production, and it isn't just limited to games. Cars, phones, computers, clothing, even my YouTube videos, just about anything around you that's been thought about, made, tested out, and tried again over and over. It's how we make things and make them better. So let's slow down and isolate the first job, design. Designing is a job for a thinker. When you design a game, there's a million things to consider. Is it gonna sell? Who's gonna play it? Do I want to make it? Will it look nice? Is it gonna be mobile or Xbox or PC? Is the gameplay new? Will it be accessible? Is it replayable? Are there interesting characters? What genre is it? What camera view is it from? 2D or 3D? Is it too big? Will it make me a better developer? There's too many things that matter when making a game, so start with your gut. What do you want to make? If you don't care about your game, then why would anybody else? If you're just making a game for experience, then try this structure. I'm gonna make a game like Stardew Valley, or I'm gonna make a game about pirates, or I'm gonna make a game that has crazy sliding mechanics. This can constrain you enough that you'll end up with a framework in a starting place, even if you're just practicing. Here's the starting places for my games. Let's make a Stardew Valley clone with cryptids, a rat-themed shooter, a game with floating objects, a game with hot air balloons, a game about an interconnected system. Now you might notice, I have not made 10 games yet. Some of these games aren't even complete. Your first games blaze the trail for you to make better games. I was gonna try to make a list of all the things that my friends and I have learned since we started making games, but it would not fit in this video. Although I've only made around 5 games or even worked on around 5 games, those have made me infinitely better of a developer than I was before them. If you're anything like me, when it comes to designing, you might have a tendency to design something that's a little bit bigger than what you're able to make. This is something that gets easier as you make more games, and you're gonna find yourself figuring out exactly what you do or don't have the bandwidth for. But make sure you're thinking about it. Think, do I really have enough time to make 15 extra characters, or should this one character have 15 different jobs? Think, do I really need to have 5 songs, or can I just have one song that's a little bit longer than it was gonna originally be and have it loop? These are the things that if you don't carefully think about, your developers are going to end up axing in production. This doesn't mean you can't make anything cool, it just means that the cool things need to be close to the very core of your game. So great, you've started design, now's the next step, development. Developing is for doers. Developers want to make things. This could be artwork, music, code, game systems, really anything that's a part of your game. I also want to mention, this is not a one-way street. Designers can develop and developers can design, whether it's just you or a team of 10. You need to clearly communicate all of your ideas and why they can or cannot be used with yourself or whoever else is on your team. Now we're still going to run into a scary problem. What do we develop first? Well, we need to dig deep into the core of our game, and hopefully, as a developer, you've carefully revised your plan with your designer so your game matches the skills that you both have, or the skills you want to learn. What is the single thing that everything else in your game is built off of? For balloons, it's popping balloons. So the first system they might consider making is that when a dart touches a balloon, the balloon pops. Once you have a collision system that destroys the sprite, you can start adding on to it, and sometimes this is where you can reconsider some of those dreams you crushed earlier. Oh, it'd be really easy to add these point systems and all these sound effects and stuff that the designer said earlier. I thought that this would be harder, but we can do all of that now. We're going to revisit design and development, but I want to introduce the next job first, as they all overlap each other pretty heavily. The next job is playtesting. Designers and developers need to be playtesters, but you're also going to find that it's invaluable to have someone that knows nothing about your game testing it too. The point of playtesting is to see if your game is delivering the intended experience. Hopefully you know what that is. Playtesters need to record every detail about that experience so that designers and developers can improve their game. Maybe when the Bloons developers were testing the game out at first, they realized it doesn't really feel like anything popped unless they add a visual and sound effect to give the player that feedback. Or maybe they found the darts are moving so fast that they need to make the collisions bigger so balloons will pop more consistently. You are not going to be able to predict every single issue that's going to come up during development, but you can identify and solve them with playtesting. It might feel tedious at times, but if you don't make a habit of testing after each new development, you're going to end up with big confusing bugs down the road, and you're not going to know what's causing them. If you get bored of testing your game, ask a friend to do it. It'll make them feel special, and they'll get to have a fresh perspective on your game that you would have never thought of before, whether it's a good one or a bad one. This brings us to our final job, iterating. Iterating is different because it's not a single job on its own, but everyone needs to do it. When you make your health system and playtesters report that enemies are impossible to kill, you need to redesign a clever solution. Should all of my enemy health be reduced, or should the player just do more damage? Or maybe you just need to add more information to the game because the player wasn't supposed to try to kill them, they were actually supposed to run away. Now that we've covered the 4 jobs, I think it's important to note that you don't need multiple people to do them. Stardew Valley and Undertale are clear examples of that one developer doing everything, even if it takes a long time. Also, take a look at Stardew Valley's character sprites. This is a perfect example of iterating over and over and over again. Or think about Minecraft's versioning. Every single one of those numbers means something meaningful was added or changed about the game. Iterations can be with entire games, like Team Fortress 2 is an iteration. Or iterations can be with miniature pieces of your game, like fine-tuning the stats of a weapon or figuring out the perfect jump distance for a player. Iterating can mean starting with your base systems and adding more onto it with each loop. And iterating can happen during development or after. Some of the most appreciated iterations are when your players complain about a bug or a request and you update your game to fix it. Think about No Man's Sky, for example. Although they never claimed it was a game and it was supposed to be some sort of weird space simulation, everyone wanted it to be this incredible game. They gave all of this feedback. We want base building, we want multiplayer, we want pets, we want new spaceships, and No Man's Sky delivered. They added all of those things, and they took their game from negative reviews on Steam to highly positive. There's a lot to learn when it comes to making a game, so start small. A quote from Adventure Time, "Sucking at something is the first step to being sorta good at it." Now this is all my take, at least, on the development loop, so you might find yourself agreeing or disagreeing with different parts, but this production loop is probably familiar to you if you've made games before or if you've just made anything before. Planning, making, reflecting, and revising are the core things that make up any production pipeline. It's a simple and effective system, but if you're not consciously thinking about it, you might slip up. So hopefully, by thinking about it and seeing this video, you might be able to make your games better, faster. If you feel anything in this video is wrong though, feel free to leave a comment. Again, this is all my take on things, so I'm curious to see if you guys have revisions for me to make. Thank you guys so much for the overwhelming support with my last video in this series. As of writing this script, it took me from around 280 subscribers to around 615. I know that does not make me the biggest channel on YouTube, but it is a huge amount of growth for me considering that those first 280 subscribers were developed over the course of like a year and a half, and then these new 300 or 400 have been coming in from 2 weeks now. So I really appreciate it. If any of you guys are a part of that original 280, you guys are the OGs now, and you get to say that you were here first. And if you made it to the end of this video, I'd really appreciate a like or a subscribe, because this channel is part of my plan to make game development my full-time career someday. It is a pretty lofty goal, right? But designers always start with lofty dreams and plans. Thanks for watching. The next video in the series is going to be about elegance in your games.